So, what do you do to get a good visibility for the assets that are actually on that network, as well as, what they're doing? And the new strategy that's maybe more effective and inclusive than, Windows machines and things that don't have supplicants.
To control the access is what you asked. Is that correct?
Just visibility of what's on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, visibility is probably the first thing that I think a lot of organizations still struggle with in general. I mean, first off, you've got systems that roam different subnets and stuff like that, which maybe changing its IP and things like that, which make it difficult. And I mean, we found tracking the identity is super important. And meaning, okay, if I've got a phone or whatever it is, a radial device or something like that goes from subnet to subnet or campus to campus, how do I get the identity on that and be able to know it's the same identity as it moves? And we do something that's called fingerprinting, and I think that's super important. So when you look at the network, every device communicates at some certain level, and you want to be able to, just like a human would with biometrics, be able to capture that fingerprint and say, okay, we know this type of device, so you get things to parse the protocols and really kind of help you from that aspect. But then also those fingerprints, which there's a certain level of attributes you want to catch at the network level, can also tell you that it's the same device essentially moving around from place to place. And then once you know that type of device, you can sort of take the zero trust theory at some level, and you start to categorize or classify, that identity into something. And then you can use that identity to segment or restrict access at a certain level. So if I don't want things, accessing the R&D department or, accessing, the core network, I can essentially apply that categorization or classification around it from a sort of a segmentation, or even tied into other integrations to keep it off of the network segments.
Well, that's kind of I guess it just kind of dawned on me then, there's really going to have to be a fundamental shift somewhat in how people are trying to secure that local area network or that campus with all the different types of devices now, because like you said, the supplicants aren't going to do much. So, and those generally run on the same devices that have like your CrowdStrikes on them, but these other devices don't run things like EDR. So you have to rely on some other way to get the visibility.
Yeah, if you look at kind of like hospital and education are great, or health and education type environments are great examples of probably more than 50% of devices, and some of them are not, your standard endpoint you can drop an agent on. And I mean, you've got things like we've seen, tunnels into laundry machines that, are connected on the network. And then you've also got other third-party companies sometimes dropping in different devices with tunnels out to their company, or that are exposed on the internet, that go on your network, and you don't know what they're doing because they're essentially 100% managed by another company. However, the network can kind of see if it's doing what it's supposed to do and communicating where it's supposed to communicate. So you think of tablets, you think of, all these smart infrastructure items that the network is really good at. Are they communicating to where they're supposed to communicate, or are they doing something abnormal? And we had a great example, and I like to point to the phones, where somebody was actually exfiltrating data over the phones. They were recording the conversations and exfiltrating them. We've had fish tanks and Peloton bikes communicating outbound, from gyms and things like that, that you really don't see in any other way other than having something like NDR down at those tiers.